Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. It's always important to read the terms of a contract, otherwise detractors can play a cruel joke with you. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The time read your contract backfired regarding holiday pay. Back in 2015, I worked for a pretty dismal sell center. It was an outsourced center that handled customer support for a lot of UK retailers. Staff turnover was real high, with the vast majority being on temporary contracts and the promise of a permanent contract being hung over people's heads to make them suck up being treated like crap. After working there for about 2 years, in late February of that year, I was offered a permanent contract because they wanted to put me on their team leader program. The pay was slightly better, the job security was better. The only major difference was how holidays were handled. People on temporary contracts were paid for any unused holidays at the end of the working year in April. People on permanent contracts had to use their holidays or they'd lose them. I had just over 3 weeks holidays saved up, so the day I accepted, I booked 3 weeks off in March so as I wouldn't lose them in April. March rolled around and my manager told me that my holidays had been refused. I said that's fine as long as they pay me for them, and he replied that no, if you don't use your holidays, you lose them. I said that I was trying to use my holidays and they were not letting me. He shrugged, said it's the duty of the employee to manage their holiday time wisely and I should read my contract, despite the fact I'd only gotten that contract 3 weeks earlier and the holidays worked differently. Understandably annoyed that evening, I went home and read my contract from beginning to end and discovered my manager had overlooked one crucial part of the paperwork. The contract clearly stated I had to give a week's notice and that any holidays not used would be paid to any leaving employee in full on their last paycheck. The next day, I came into work and announced I'd be quitting unless paid my holidays or allowed to take the time off, and if they accepted my notice, then to be sure my holidays were included in my final paycheck. My boss asked me if I was really going to quit over this, and I replied, was he really going to lose one of his most reliable employees over this? He wouldn't budge. I assume he thought I was bluffing. So I handed him my notice, and on my leaving interview with my manager's manager, made sure to explain exactly why I was leaving. And yes, my final paycheck did include my unused holiday days. The end. 100% the best move in this situation. And our next story. Rude boss interrupts again, so I honor his decision, sale dies. I work in a highly competitive business-to-business sales role with a consulting firm. The services and products I'm responsible for are complex with many layers of detail that can make it challenging to navigate through each deal. We're highly regulated and have some legal compliance requirements on what source of funding a client's permitted to use toward certain services being purchased. In short, there are things our clients need that have to be paid for on a fee basis instead of commission offsets. I'm a 15-year veteran of the industry. I know the rules and have never violated our legal compliance regulations. My team knows this, and in fact, none of my deals last year were commission-based by design. I'm the kind of person who believes in doing good work, contributing effectively, and being a constructive team member. It's not in my nature to ride the wave and just collect a paycheck. Last year, only my second year on this team, I ended up more than doubling my sales goal for my region and actually hit the overall national goal for the team. My counterparts had a rough year, so I was proud to have contributed so that we as a team made our numbers. Unfortunately, when it came down to it, even though leadership said they value my efforts and appreciate my results, I got paid less than I did the year prior when I just barely hit my goal. Long story short, when I questioned my bonus/incentive pay being short, I was told that's just the way it is. In doing some research and pulling records, I found that my deals over the last 2.5 years of being on this team are the most profitable and have some of the highest client satisfaction ratings the team has ever had. I'm proud of that, but I don't flaunt it to the team or to leadership. I like for my work to speak for itself rather than me parading it around. Our team is small, with only 8 of us, yet we have 2 national leaders assigned to us, one of which is painful to work with at best. Larry was given this position by his best friend who sits at a higher level in the company, and unfortunately, Larry isn't very capable of being a good leader. He's quick to spout off, is rude to the team, tightly wound, and all around, just not a pleasant person. Being in a sales role, it's my job to close deals and drive revenue. Larry doesn't seem to understand that, and at times has said things to me like, "You just want to do this for the sale, don't you?" And when I say yes, because that's my job, he says, "Well, I'm looking for every possible reason to tell you no." This isn't the best way to deal with sales executives and motivate new production. Just the opposite. Instead of helping think through possibilities and creative solutions, Larry likes to shut things down and puff his chest to prove he knows best. And it's not that I'm afraid of being told no, it's the way he does it before even taking a moment to understand the scenario, before interrupting and spouting off. It's a fight with Larry every single time, and it's exhausting. On top of that, he's always asking me to do more, take on more tasks/responsibilities, because the others on this team are either already overwhelmed or aren't capable. I feel like Larry tries to exploit my work ethic and results. It's deflating to be treated like this, and combined with the terrible way pay has been managed, I'm at the point where I'm done being an overachiever. By the end of the first quarter this year, I was already hitting 40% of our overall revenue goal and over 70% of my personal goal. I've decided to go on cruise control for the remainder of the year. After all, that's just the way it is. There's a lot more that's built me up to this point, but it'd take a novel to spell it all out. It's been a rough couple of years working with Larry, and I'm over it. Enter the main story. I've been working a deal for about a year now, and the client has some complex requirements we're trying to solve. I have a solution, but it's just slightly outside the revenue parameters that I'm authorized to approve on my own. We have a standing weekly meeting with Larry and the others where we talk about strategy and any deal where we need special approval. Prior to the meeting, I put together a very thorough financial analysis, everything Larry would need to evaluate the request and make an informed decision. It's a six-figure annual deal on a multi-year contract that'll generate some nice revenue for our team. My ask is for a one-time concession of less than $3,000 outside my permission limits, and it's the difference between closing the deal or losing it to the competition. The math is simple, and it's in the best interest of my company and for my team for us to win this one. Effectively, it's $1,000 per year for us to gain $120,000 per year. Rather, $119,000 after the concession. Should be an easy decision. So comes the day of the weekly meeting with Larry and his team. When it's my turn, I start outlining my deal and setting the financial foundation for my request and all the services included. This is important per the legal compliance rules noted above. Before I can even finish, Larry decides to spout off, interrupt me mid-sentence, and just says, "No, you can't do that," with a tone that echoed throughout the rest of the team. I let things go silent for a few seconds. At this point, I'm so done with Larry's garbage that I just said, "Okay, that's all I have for today." And then I hand the meeting over to the next presenter, Paul. Larry chimes back in, "You can't use commissions to cover that expense. That's against compliance rules." Me: "I know. If you'd let me finish, you'd understand this is not a commission deal. I've structured this on a fee basis specifically to avoid that." "No worries, though. I understand. I'll tell the client that they'll have to find an extra $3,000 because we aren't willing to work with them." Larry: "Some rambling onto a sidetrack about compliance that isn't relevant to my request and the financial decision." Me: "Thanks for sharing that. My point isn't to question compliance. I'm well aware and uphold those requirements on all my deals. This is in compliance. My ask is for a $3,000 concession to close this deal. That's the long and short of it, and is what I'm asking you to either approve or deny. I've discussed with the client all the other considerations from a legal perspective, and they understand. This is about beating out a competing offer, nothing more." Larry: "Well, you have to decide if you want to write the business bad enough or not." At this point, I have no motivation to sell this deal since Larry said it's my decision. I say, "Okay, I pretty well decided it's not worth it, so I'll let him know we couldn't get it approved. I wouldn't want to cut our profits on the deal. I'm already a year into this negotiation, so I'll just let it ride out." Larry: Silence. Me: "Okay, Paul, over to you now. Thanks, Larry." The meeting continues, and when we wrap up, I hear from Larry again. Larry: "Hey, where's the financial analysis on client? I want to look it over and see what margin we'll make." Me: "It's in the folder where we always save them, and it's filed according to procedure as always. No need for any further analysis, though. I've already told client and waiting to hear their response. I'll keep you posted. Thanks, Larry. Wow, I just pulled the files. These numbers look great. Plenty of margin in the deal. How'd you get to those figures? That's what I was hoping to explain earlier. I'm sure you saw my deals from last year, too, and I'm just doing the same thing again this year. All good. I'm on to the next one now. Have a good afternoon. Larry. Okay, let me know if I can help. Admittedly, this last interaction with Larry, I was feeling salty. I'm over his behavior, and quite frankly, I don't care if I sell another deal this year or not. It's been proven that I'm not going to get rewarded for going above and beyond, so why put any more effort than I have to? At my current pace, I'll manage to hit goal for the year without having to work too hard at it. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is struggling, and for the most part, aren't tracking to hit goal. I'm not going to be the pack mule this year. Someone else can carry that torch. My time's better spent shopping my resume out to see what else is out there. Sounds like Larry still doesn't understand or care that he killed this deal. And our next story. Me and my babies need to use your pool. Okay, backstory. This happened in 1965. Just for some clarification, I was 26 then, 81 now. I had a pool party yesterday and thought about this run-in that I had. So in my old neighborhood, my wife and I rented a home in a community of around 23 houses. Out of these 23 homes, we were one of about 7 with a pool because the previous owner ordered a pool when he had the house built. Adding a pool was around a $2,000 option, so many people didn't get it. Because I had a pool, a lot of people would try to come over to swim. Now, I was quite generous with my pool if people called first. Now, understandably, some weekends I wanted some peace and quiet. A new family had moved in to the left of me, and they heard that I was generous with my pool, so the mom and her 3 kids just came over in swimsuits and asked to use my pool. I said that I was tired, and next weekend they could swim, just not right now. I told her that she and her kid could go to the community center. She and her kids could have gotten in for around 25 cents around that time. She said, entitled mom, "Oh, come on, I don't want to drive all that way." 3 miles. Plus, I don't want my babies in that water with all those dirty people. Me. I'm sorry, I just got off a 60-hour week. I don't want to have people over. Sorry. Due to her angry attitude, I didn't want her in my home, so I was very dismissive of her using my pool. Come on, my babies are hot and need to cool off. Just let us swim for an hour and we'll leave. I don't want them in that nasty pool. Just be a good neighbor. No, I'm sorry. She then whispers something to her kids and they proceed to beg to use my pool. I just close the door on her. A few hours later, I hear my dog barking and people screaming. I look out the window and the mom and her kids had hopped my fence to gain access to my pool, and they were being cornered by my dog, Cupcake. Cupcake was a big pit bull and she was a sweetie but always defended me and my property. I take the family out of my yard and tell them if they came on my property again, I would call the police. She also tried to gain access to the other neighbors' pools and was promptly banned from there as well. Love the dog detail. I've always found it amusing when people name these big, mean-looking dogs something cutesy like you did, Cupcake. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.